on this important and historic visit. I last visited in May, and I return today at a vital time because we are united in our ironclad support for Ukraine. For 2.5 years, you have bravely and fiercely defended yourselves against Russia's full-scale invasion. But as we heard today, Putin's ugly attempts to restore the Russian Empire began much earlier, with the illegal annexation of Crimea 10 years ago. Putin claims he wishes to liberate Ukrainian civilians, but he denies the right of their nation to exist. He has sent in tanks and soldiers to enforce his diktat, and he inflicts horrors on Crimea and other regions of Ukraine under the Russian yoke, with stories of forced disappearances, sinister re-education camps, and torture. Putin's barbaric actions are the latest example of a very old and evil story. One of my ancestors was taken from their home, enslaved, chained on a ship, and forced to work for the profit of a foreign empire. He knew only too well what imperialism was. No act of authoritarianism is ever exactly the same. But 80 years after Stalin deported the Crimean Tatars, 240 years after Catherine the Great annexed Crimea, Putin has revealed the same arrogance, the same greed, the same disdain for the rights of other individuals and nations. This is imperialism. This is fascism. And this week, we have been reminded of how other authoritarian regimes are aiding Putin, with Iran going even further in support for Moscow by providing ballistic missiles, a significant and dangerous escalation. Britain and the US and our partners have responded quickly to Tehran's undermining of global security. Britain has sanctioned Iranian officials and entities, as well as Russian entities and cargo ships involved in the transfer of weapons. And together we've restricted Iran's air flights to Europe. This response is in keeping with our commitment to remain Ukraine's staunchest friend. And I'm proud of that commitment. I'm proud of Prime Minister Starmer's commitment to provide $3 billion in military aid every year that is needed in your fight. And today I can confirm more than 600 million worth of support for Ukraine, including 242 million this financial year for immediate humanitarian, energy, and stabilization needs, as well as support for reform, recovery, and reconstruction. Plus, we're confirming our intention to deploy $484 million worth of World Bank loan guarantees later this year. And the UK is speeding up military deliveries with air defense missiles, equipment of F-16 fighter jets, AS-90 self-propelled guns, and spare barrels, military boats, and maritime guns having now been delivered. I can announce we will now also send hundreds of additional air defense missiles, tens of thousands of additional artillery ammunition rounds, and more armored vehicles to Ukraine by the end of the year. But I am most proud of the unity we and our allies have shown in support for Ukraine. And that is why our joint visit today, the first joint visit of its kind for well over a decade, is such an important signal. Together, Britain and our allies are united in our commitment to Ukraine. to freedom, to victory, because we both recognize what is at stake here, not just the liberty of Ukraine, but the security of Europe and the security of the West, and indeed the very principles that underpin the UN Charter, on which rests the international order as it stands, which has brought peace and prosperity to so many. It's good to be with here. It's good to stand with you. Thank you very much.